I have a question for you. You are the only, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I am. You're the only one to have done the CrossFit Games thing and then parlay that into a gym business at the level that you have. And there were plenty of people that own it. Ben Smith owns a gym. You know, if Rich has got
Handshake has a gym.
Yeah, so these guys have gyms. But we can all maybe assess, or maybe it's probably the wrong assessment, but I'm ignorantly speaking that it's probably a thing that maybe it makes money, maybe it breaks even, it allows them to train, it's fun for them, they have sponsorships. It's probably not their main nut of how they're supporting their family. Yours, this entire empire that you've built, you're the only one that kind of made it out that and did that thing. When, if you were to step back and talk to anyone third party and say, hey, listen, these guys, they're CrossFit athletes, at some time the limelight's gone and they got to move on to something. What should they do? Like, well, they should open gyms. Why do you think you're the only one who is able to make brick and mortar work at scale?
I mean, I think it's because I got into the fitness business before I even found CrossFit and before I found competing in CrossFit. Meaning, I already knew I was going to own a gym when I was like 17.
When you were working for Joe at the Globo gym.
Yeah. So I already knew that, right? And so I started off from a business side and then found CrossFit and fell in love with the methodology and fell in love with the coach. And so it was a different mindset. I still remember, in the early days of CrossFit, it was really frowned upon to look at it as a business. It was so community driven, which is great. But at the same time, you have to feed your family and provide for other people. And so for me, ever since day one, been really trying to treat it like a business and not a hobby. And it is very difficult to do that. Like this day and age, it's very difficult to be a professional athlete right now in CrossFit with the time dedication that's required and also open up a brick and mortar gym. And frankly, I don't even know if that's the right route right now. I think what professional CrossFit athletes should do right now, if I could, like, let's just take someone who's at the top of the sport. Let's just take Noah Olson. I just talked to him. So I love Noah. I think he's a great guy. He's been at the sport for a long time. My recommendation for him would be obviously create these partnership agreements with sponsors, maybe try and get equity in these businesses instead of just trying to get a paycheck, because if one day they grow to something special, you can maybe get something better.
Yeah, we're talking wealth over cash.
Right. But in addition, I would try and use this microphone that I'm creating to then draw people into other things that I'm doing. I think it's important to recognize the difference between an athlete and a coach and adding value to people. And so I think that you create your name and recognition from being at the games, but then what value you could add to other people will determine how much they're willing to pay you for it. So that could be online programming, that could be coaching, these could be different opportunities, but you want to be able to scale your abilities. So if you have a brick and mortar location, that's fine. But now if you've created this wide network because of the games, it'd be good to say, okay, I have X amount of followers on social media, this many people know about who I am. How do I add so much value to them that they're willing to pay for my service? And what service am I uniquely good enough at that I could actually charge that for, is the question I'd be asking myself right now.
Because we both agree, just because you're good at CrossFit doesn't mean you show up at a gym. You like coffee, I like whiskey. You're not opening up a coffee shop. I'm not opening up a distillery.
Right.
It's one of those things. It is just really, I've been, obviously in doing this, Kelly was one of the few SMEs from the CrossFit space that just exploded out of the CrossFit ecosystem.
Yeah.
I mean, he blacklisted, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, what he's created, none of the other SMEs in that realm can really touch how big that company is. Look at Miranda and all that, former gym owner, right? And now she's got street parking. And that's, this monstrous 30,000 subscriber thing that they've created. It's just really interesting to see who was able to just take the competitive thing, and it's almost as if that was just like, it was just a stepping stone. Like, I know you talk a lot about, competing allowed you to learn adversity. It allowed you to handle stuff, things you've done in your life. It's just very interesting to me, because I would say most of these guys, all on a level, Josh Bridges has his coffee company, right?
Yep.
All these guys have now an opportunity when the limelight's on them to get a deal, to maybe get some investment if you have a good idea. I wish there was somebody giving like business lectures to these young guns that are like, hey, yes, you've got the limelight on you now. You're just one ACL away, or this other fucking Matt Frazier 2.0 coming around, that you're nobody anymore. You're CrossFit famous, which isn't really famous, but for a minute, if you can harness it and bottle it, you can
build something special.
You can build something crazy.
You got to surround yourself with the right team. I mean, look at Matt Frazier. He brought on Matt O'Keefe years ago, and they have a great relationship. And O'Keefe, in particular, has done a really good job for Matt. Now, Matt has also done a good job for himself. Like, he is business focused. He's minded in that way. But the people he's surrounded himself with have really done a great job of creating a great opportunity for Matt. I mean, look at what Matt has done since he's retired. He's launched an online training program. He's pre-released a book. He's now launched a supplement line, all of these things as soon as he finished competing. So he built up his brand, signed a great deal with Nike, all these different things that he did. And then boom, once he's retired, he now uses that to catapult into these new things. I bet you 2 years from now, you'll see Matt as a much bigger business figure and creating some phenomenal businesses because he surrounded himself with the right people and he made the right connections at the right time. And I think anybody right now in the CrossFit space needs to be thinking about it. Hey, what's my long-term strategy here? Where am I going? What's my 5-10-year plan? And if the plan is, hey, right now I'm going to spend the next 2 years just trying to win at the games and anything outside of that is just a distraction, then maybe find a business manager who could take on those distractions because those distractions won't be there forever. When you're done competing, they might go away. You got to be careful.